All right. Hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because in today's video, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different long-term ETFs. So as you can see, I have a portfolio. This is not my actual portfolio. I do not own $30,000 in ETFs. But what I did was I created a sample holding about March 1st or so. So about 25 days ago, I let it run for about 20 days. And I have 30 different holdings in this long-term ETF portfolio. And I want to show you guys why long-term ETF investing can actually be exciting as well, although the yields are much lower. This is actually a decent yield, 4.5%. But what I want to show you here is there's many other ETFs that you can invest in, like a robotics ETF, cool, whatever. I'm not really into robotics, but there's a dividend ETF, SHD. We have a bunch of other ones like Vanguard, which produces the S&P 500. They got a total stock market index fund ETF, and then you also have the Russell 2000. So there's many different aspects, many different sectors and indexes to kind of watch out for when you're investing in these long-term ETFs. So it's not like, oh, you buy something, you're buying the entire market. No, you can definitely buy specific points in the market. And as you can see, over time, your capital can build with these, and you can also receive a small dividend that should grow over time, which is very exciting with these funds. So that is exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. And I'm going to kind of go over not all 30, but what I want to do is I will list them off so you guys can put it in your watch list, in your portfolios to kind of keep in mind. And I'm just going to tell you about some key highlighted ones that I want to bring to your attention. So if that sounds good, we're gonna start this video off by saying please do subscribe. We're up to 4,215 subscribers. We're over that 4,200 subscriber marker, which is awesome to see. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has recently joined the channel. And if you've been here for a long time, you can also comment down below, but don't stress about the commenting. It's all good, guys. You guys do enough as it is. So in this video, $30,000 worth of 30 long-term ETFs. Now, one thing I do want to mention is with these ETFs, look at this, okay? BNDX, it's the second ETF that we're going to kind of talk about here. You can see that its inception was about 2013 and it was at about $50. Well, you can see the current share price is below what it has been, and it's only been paying about a 4% dividend yield. This is an example of how, although these are long-term ETFs, and for the most part, they generally appreciate upwards, as you can see, sometimes they do go down. And so although they have lower yields, they could still be subject to a little bit of depreciation. Now for the majority, okay, look at this. The majority, the dividend ETFs like SHD, they go up. For example, Vanguard, S&P 500, over time, it should go up. The total stock market should go up with time. But just because you're investing in ETFs, these long-term ETFs, doesn't mean, things will always go smoothly and go up. It totally depends as well what you invest in. So with all that being said, I just want to get started with this. The first ETF on our list is AGG. That is the ticker symbol. I'm pretty sure they're a bond ETF. And I really only wanted to bring out one bond ETF, which the next one is BNDX. As you can see, I'm going to be rolling through kind of quick here because we have 30 to go through. BNDX is the Vanguard Total International Bond Index Fund. And I wanted to put this one up because it's an international bond index fund. I have a feeling it's a little bit more kind of like diversified than the first bond index. But as you can see here, bonds, although paying a 4.5% dividend, it trended up all the way to 2020 where it really hadn't made such a big price movement, maybe about 20% from the IPO. And then it fell, you're pretty much negative, and then you're receiving this 4% dividend every year. But the fact that it's an ETF, it's a long-term holding, should appreciate over time, and it hasn't. That is another one to kind of just keep out for when you're looking for the bond market, that's subject to potential losses at the same time. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is DIA. I see it here. It says something to do with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I'm not sure what that is, but one that I'm going to actually look at a little bit is FITLX. That is a little bit of a handful. It is by Fidelity. It is the Fidelity US Sustainability Index. And I'm not necessarily sure what they do. They have good ratings, a 5-star Morningstar rating, and sustainability rating. They're rated 5 here, which is great. You could see they pay out a small 1.12% dividend, but you could see over time since 2017, their share price has, what is it? It's more than doubled, which is actually pretty good. That's not too bad. That's better than, let's say, holding cash. For example, you're also receiving that dividend too. what I do want to see here is I haven't checked. I want to see their dividends. So going back to 2017, we could see that, yes, it looks like they pay a yearly dividend, which is very interesting. And it does increase over time. It looks like it's always paid out roughly about early December, December 8th, December 3rd to December 9th, something like that. But FITLX, one to keep in mind for potential long-term growth. I'm not sure what this is, so you'd have to kind of look into it yourself. I'm just giving you the ticker symbols for today. So the next one, also by Fidelity, FNILX. That is another long-term ETF. We have some by iShares, which is IEMG. We have IJH. That's another one. We have IJR. We have IVV. IVV is one that I kind of put down. I wanted to bring out one of the iShares one. It's a core S&P 500 ETF. I like anything to do with the S&P 500. I find generally over the long term that the S&P 500 does very well. Obviously, because it's the 500 biggest companies in the stock market. And you can see here from 2000, it was trading at about $142 or so, and has pretty much, we'll say, about 3 to 4x. And at the same current time period, you have been receiving a 1.35% dividend. So not too bad right there. Now, the next one, we got IWM. We have NASDX, which I assume maybe has something to do with the NASDAQ, but I'm not 100% sure. We have QQQ, which I know is a popular one. We have ROBO, something different, just to show you that these long-term ETFs can be something different. We have ROBO, which is the Robo Global Robotics and Automation Index ETF. If you guys work in a certain space, if you guys work in technology, if you guys work in construction, anything like that, I'm sure there's an ETF surrounding your kind of niche, and you guys can be an expert within that niche. You can see here, very small kind of ETF here, only 1.35 billion, small yield, extremely small yield, 0.05. And you can see here, it hasn't necessarily appreciated that much. It's maybe doubled since its inception here, which is not bad, but that's going all the way back to 2014 or so, so 10 years ago. And the market should double every about 7 years or so. So this, I think, has lagged behind the market a little bit, but one to potentially look into, and just to kind of get your minds kind of going that there are ETFs that are different from just, the S&P 500 or the total market. Now, the next one, RSP, something interesting that looks like S&P 500. Next one, SCHD. SCHD is one of my personal favorites because I am a dividend investor, as I'm sure you guys are all dividend investors if you follow our channel. If you are following the channel and you are a dividend investor and you haven't subscribed, just do so, man. Come on now. Or, women, whatever you guys want. SCHD, US Dividend Equity ETF. They hold a bunch of different amazing long-term ETFs. You can see here since 2011, they've almost tripled their share price, and they pay out a pretty decent 3.42% dividend, so nothing too crazy. But long-term, they do increase their dividends. And you guys got to remember, the dividends that you're all seeing here, for example, this 1.12%, this is all the current dividend. And as you buy your shares, the share price actually increases, the dividends get bigger, and your yield on cost gets bigger, although this might stay relatively the same. Your yield on cost on the money you invested will get bigger, which is something very interesting about these ETFs, these long-term ETFs. Next one, SCHE, another one from Schwab. Now we're getting into ones from SPDR. We have SDY, we have SPLG, and we have SPY. I know SPY is something decently popular. There's kind of like a dividend version of that, SPYY or something like that. I think I covered it on my channel a little while ago, but I can't remember. We have SPYG, we have SWPPX, VEA, a Vanguard one. We're now getting into the Vanguard ones. We have VO, we have VOO. I think I have VO right here, which is the S&P 500 ETF, tracks the S&P 500, has done well over time, 1.36% dividend. And as you can see, a massive fund. This is a fund, VO, that a lot of people invest in, $1.07 trillion, not billion, trillion. So that's pretty crazy. We have VOOV, another S&P 500. We have VTI, which is the Total Stock Market Index ETF from Vanguard. And as you can see, another huge one, 1.55 trillion. Now, one thing I keep in mind when I'm talking about Vanguard is a lot of people own Vanguard. So although it is kind of like a huge kind of business corporation, and people say that Vanguard owns everything. Well, a lot of people own Vanguard. Most likely, if you're investing in some kind of long-term ETF, you might own something of Vanguard. So that is something to keep in mind as well. We have VTI, as we mentioned, VTV, we have VTWO, and VUG. So that is the total 30 holdings for long-term ETFs. There's, of course, a lot more long-term holdings. This is not just, there's a lot more ETFs out there. These are only 30 of them. There's so many more that you guys can kind of find on your own, for example. But these are just to give you guys an idea of how they might perform over time, how they might appreciate with lower dividend yields that will grow over time. Now, one thing, although these are ETFs, they do cover kind of sectors and indexes. It's also cool to invest in some long-term stocks. I did make a video on this. Maybe you watched this video prior to seeing this video, but I also have 45 different current holdings that I'm watching, and there's so many more amazing companies that you can buy long-term. And to be honest, what you could do if you're like, look, I like SHG, I like the dividends, but I want to choose exactly where I put my money. What you could do is you can literally make your own little ETF within your portfolio. You could buy Apple, AbbVie, you can buy BDX, you can buy Caterpillar here, you can buy Colgate, Costco, Enbridge, whatever you want, Kellogg's, and you can be in demand of what your ETF, quote unquote, your portfolio, how much you allocate to each stock and how much you want in each stock. And you can pick your favorite stocks. You can pick the dividend yields that you want, and you can pick anything that you want. So there's so much kind of room to grow with investing. There's obviously, you can invest in an index which kind of covers something for you, like the S&P 500, like the total stock market, or you could choose your own. So there's so many different avenues when it comes to investing. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing's, exactly set in stone. Everything could be your decision. And as long as you guys take the time to learn, hopefully stick around, and I can kind of keep you guys posted. If you guys have any kind of ETFs as well to mention that I didn't cover that you guys want to see, you just let me know, and whatever you guys can do to help me will help thousands of people. So just to keep that in mind, I want to say, if you guys did enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe. We're up to 4,215 subscribers. So thank you guys for joining the page and the channel and the community. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one, and have a great Monday, everyone.